Welcome to All-Star Quilts. I'm Eleanor Burns. Today we are going to pay tribute to Nancy Zeman, my good friend and superstar. She is founder of the go-to place for sewing accessories. You know it, Nancy's Notions. Well, I have two unique quilts using stars for Nancy. Dory Furman reached her scrap bag to create a lovely quilt with antique flair. I love her keen sense of color with the gray, coral, and blue. It just makes a stunning quilt. Now the scale is unique, beginning with a large scale print in the center and then repeating it in the framing border and in Mary Ann's star. She lengthened her borders with 7 stars on each side in 2 colorways, a beautiful soft blue and coral. And then she repeated the same snowball fabric in the coral stars and a charming check in the blue stars. You know, these stars are so cute. They just remind me of little country girls dressed up in their aprons. Well, Dory quilted her own quilt with large stippling, and she called it Stars in My Eyes. Isn't that appropriate? So fun. Well, Dory's good friend, Kim Ashby, also lengthened her quilt to twin size by adding length in Nancy's star border. Well, the quilt looks like a summer picnic. Well, Kim chose a cheery color combination of red, white, soft blue, and aqua for her dazzling quilt. She added red and blue pinwheels to frame her whole feathered star and widened her background border. Well, Nancy's star blocks are adorable too. I love the bold red framing to the white star and the red country check with fussy cut center. You know, that fabric is little teacups. Well, for length, Kim made 4 extra blocks and set them together in her original design. There are 6 stars across the top and the bottom, but there's 8 on each side. Let's see. That is 28 stars. Well, her length is now 86 inches, charming for a twin-size bed. Kim did her own quilting with large stippling. She appropriately called this quilt Friends and Stars. I just love this blue polka dot. It's so cute. And look at this. She pieced the back using up all of her leftovers. It's just perfect. Nice country pieces. There's that tea check, the teacup fabric right in the middle. Cute. Well, Nancy O'Connor carefully selected different colors for her stars. She used her feathered star to represent the summer sun. You know, it just radiates outward. And then in the corners, the purple stars of the aurora borealis await the evening sky. Well, the blue sky is the stars above and the outside border. And then on the sides, the green trees in the forest stand tall on both sides. And the rich earth is along the bottom in tones of orange and brown. Well, Nancy called her quilt Summer Stars. Judy Jackson did a beautiful job quilting, just open, stippling all around. Very stunning. Beautiful story too. Well, my sister Patty Nagel made this quilt, and she called it Fussy and Fantastic. No wonder, because this quilt is just full of fussy cuts. She combined tone-on-tone lilac with soft green checks, and her soft use of these hush shades just gave a perfect spot for background. Just show off her piecing. Great. You know, she used fussy cuts in the center of Mary Ann's star. When I look at this one, I think these just look like cucumber slices there. It's so fun. And she also used fussy cuts in the center of Nancy's star and again in Mark's star in the corners. Mary Jo Rembolt long arm quilted it with beautiful sunflowers. Look and see. These sunflowers represent the fussy cut fabric in Mary Ann's star. You know, all of the quilts are uniquely theirs. Each one is very creative. So let's get started and you can create your own masterpiece. We are moving right through this quilt. We have already done Mary Ann's star and Alex's stars, completed and sewn into triangles for the corners of the feathered star. Well, today we're going to do Nancy's star. 24 6-inch stars for outside borders. Oh my gosh. And then you're just going to set them together with triangles, 4 all around the outside edge. Great. Well, using that same row technique, you can turn 6 blocks into a charming country-style table runner. So pretty. Well, Nancy certainly is a well-known star. You know, since 1982, she has graced us as the hostess and co-producer of the longest-running sewing program in the country, Sewing with Nancy. Oh, and I have watched that program. So this is the block right here. It's also known as the Ohio Star. And these are just little 2.5-inch patches here, 2.5 in the center. Little triangles, 1 peacock, 2 backgrounds, and then 1 medium. So I decided those triangles were so little, I'm going to use a different approach and sew strips together. These are 2 1/4-inch strips, so you need to have a pair of background and the peacock as 1 pair, and then the second one as the medium and the background. So you're just going to do a 1/4-inch seam, flip them right sides together, get them all lined up. Use your 1/4-inch foot and just assembly line sew. And when you're doing a whole big quilt, you need to have 6 long strip sets of each one. That is a lot of sewing. We're going to have to make 96 of these. So get it lined up, needle down. All right, power. You know, while I was teaching my webinar, Nancy was not able to come to the Missing Quilt series. So, all of a sudden, when I was in the middle of the program, I got a call from the Chief Detective Officer of Beaver Dam, Wisconsin Police Department. Now, they were alerted by the FQB. Now, FQB stands for the Federal Quilt Bureau. Oh my goodness. The Federal Quilt Bureau told the police department, be on the lookout for a missing quilt. Oh my goodness, a missing quilt. So the police officer said one showed up in Beaver Dam. And the police officer started to describe it to me, and all of a sudden I go, oh, that quilt sounds so ugly. That can't be my quilt. And then the whole class said, oh, it sounds like somebody we know. Of course, it was Nancy Zeman impersonating, and they all laughed and they said, oh my gosh, Nancy will do anything just to get on the webinar, huh? But she was so cute and lots of fun to do. So now I have my 1/4-inch seams sewn, and I'm just going to set my seam and put the medium on the top, set the seam, open, and press toward the medium. And when I press, I use the lead finger right ahead of the iron so that I make sure I don't get any folds in my pieces. Okay, and this one, the dark is going on the top. Use the grid on your pressing mat, line up your strip with the line so that whenever you open it up and just press, just lead with your finger and make sure there's no seams. Okay, we're looking good. So now, we're going to turn these into little 4 patches. Go ahead and start and place the medium on the bottom like this. Line it up on your cutting mat, and take your second strip, put it right sides together. And I always just run along, feel. If it's flat, then you'll know that those seams are all locked together. Well, I have 96 of these to make, and so I'm going to do some layer cutting. Just take all the strips, as many layers as you can go ahead and cut. And I like to offset them so that the seams aren't on top of each other. Line it up like this. This is good, looking good. So you're going to cut off the selvage, start on the left end. If you're right-handed, just trim it off, and then you can just take this, get rid of it, then take your ruler and line it up at 2 1/4 inches and make a cut. There, I already have 3 of them all stacked up. You're just going to keep on moving across this strip until you have 96 of these. Now I'll just slide this out of the way, and now you can just take one pair at a time, pick it up. The seam is going up on the top, so it's just going to shove right into the underneath one. So let's just get it started. And you're going to assembly line sew all 96 as fast as you can. But I'm just going to do one so that I can show you how you do it. Okay, so now we're going to make sure that it's matching. Oh, perfect. Okay, so now just place it wrong side up. Lead with your fingers and make sure there's no folds. This goes down at 3 over at 6. And when you do that, that little center opens up. Just mush it good right in the middle. And you see that you've got that little 4 patch and matched on this side. So let me work on all 96 of those, and I'll show you how to square these up. Now I want to take this perfectly matched 4 patch and turn it into triangles. The best ruler to use is the 6 1/2 inch triangle square up ruler. And you can always tell it's for squaring up triangles because the lines go across on the diagonal and you see the shapes of the triangles on the ruler. So I want to make this patch 2 1/2 inches square. So you take the 2 1/2 inch line on the ruler and just place it on the seam. Line up 2 1/2 right through the middle like that. The vertical line goes up and down. Well, this one is great, and so all you have to do is just cut off the top and the bottom. But we do have a smaller ruler now that's a little bit more convenient, not going to take up the whole one. This is a 4 1/2 inch triangle square up ruler. Do the same thing. Put the 2 1/2 inch line along the vertical and horizontal. Okay, I've got it. Just hold it down tight and just trim off one corner and the other like so, and then you can just take these, get rid of them. Just turn your mat, and now once again put 2 1/2 along here and here. 2 1/2. Perfect. And just cut off these little guys. Well, you do waste a little bit of fabric, but time is money, and it does go a lot faster. And there's your little patch. Perfect. So for each block, you need to have 4 of these for the peacock corners and just 1 for the center. So lay them around the center block. It is just so cute. I love to make Ohio stars. Must be because I'm from Pennsylvania, huh? Might be the good one. Okay, so let me stack these up, lay it out, and get ready to sew it together. Perfect. Now, the thing is, this is now bias edges, and I want to show you how to pin it so it doesn't slip on you. So just take, I'm going to sew this vertical row. So if you take and you flip this one, this one, this one, we're just going to go do-do-do-do-do. But right here, this patch seems to slide. I don't know why. But anyhow, I like to just take 2 pins and just pin it so that whenever you get to this seam, it just matches the corners. Okay, so let's just sew down vertical rows, turn it around here. You've got 24 of these. No slipping and sliding on this patch. Okay, so line up the outside edges. Sew a 1/4 inch seam right down along this side, and then butt the second one in right behind. And just take it slow. Use a jumper strip if you want. This is what we don't want to slide down. It is on the bias, it is on the top. So right as you get to it, then just go ahead and pull out those pins, and just set them aside, and then just keep on going on to the second patch, and we'll take a look and see how it looks. Good. So cut threads and see. We'll look. Okay, open it up. One. Oh, see, that's looking good right there. It did not slide. It's perfect quarter at the top and the bottom. Perfect. Okay, so now you're just going to open this one up and take and sew the next row, right sides together to it. Looking good. Along here, we can just flip, 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 and then go ahead and start and then pin those second two. And that'll work really great. You know, one of my favorite times with Nancy Zeman was when I went to her sewing weekend, and she always opens up her warehouse. And you can go in her warehouse and have all these, get all these great buys. It was so fun for me because there was Nancy's little boy. Oh my gosh, he was just big enough to touch the top of the cash register. He was standing there with one of the executives from Baby Lock, and they were loading the bags. So I think first, you know, Nancy and I are both mothers of 2 boys. I think we're mothers first, and then we are video stars, authors, on and on, second. So let's see, looking good. So now I'm just going to take out the pins. Perfect, looking good. So now all I have to do is just flip it and sew it across the other way. And when you do that, you always press your seams away from the pieced block, and you have that perfect V right there. You want your stitches to just tip right on that V. Use a jumper scrap to go ahead and get it started. Just put your needle down and then just take your patch, line it up right after that, just to help it right through those feed dogs. Good. And if you have to, give it a little tug on the back. Now, right here, I'm going to watch for that V. Use your stiletto. Oh my gosh, what would I do without my stiletto? Line up that seam right there. And then when you get to the other one, you can just go ahead and check, make sure, do your 2 pins so it doesn't shift. One in the top of that seam and one at the bottom. And just keep on going. Oh, whoa, get that jumper out of the way. Okay, I'm just about onto the pin. Just pull out your pins, sew to the bottom. And then the second row is done exactly the same way. We are into it. We are done. Look how good it matches. Woo, that's great. So last seam, and then all you need to do is that final pressing. From the wrong side, the center gets pressed from the middle out. Perfect. I want to show you how to sew it into rows now. I have all 24 stars done, and now you lay them out into 4 rows. Actually, you need to have 6 stars in a row, but I can only fit 4 on my table, but it works exactly the same. The side triangles come from 2 different sizes of squares. This is for the corners. This is a 6-inch square, and we need to have both colors of the large scale print and the background. And 1/2 is just going to go right up here at the top. And you repeat this exact same thing at the bottom. Okay, we've got a good start. Save this for the bottom. Now, the second set of triangles comes from 5 10.5-inch squares, and you actually cut these on both diagonals. You cut them into 4 pieces, into 4 triangles. That way we're going to have the bias on the inside and the straight of the grain on the outside edge. So now let's just take these 4 and we'll line up all down along there. And they are oversized. oversized so that you can go ahead and just trim them up later. Okay, we don't need that one for this little guy, but right down here, we need to have that other corner. And then these go on the opposite side. So this part with the dark color just frames the whole block beautifully. Okay, one more. So this is one set, kind of short, but it'll work. So I like to plan a system so I can assembly line sew. This is my system. You take the star, you skip the first one at the top, but you flip the second, the third, the fourth, and so on down through the rows to the bottom. And then once you have those flipped right sides together, I just like to take and make one stack. I started doing this because in the beginning when I first started quilting, I just couldn't see it. It was too hard to see. So I would just run over, pick up a piece, sew it, and run back and put it back out again. Now I've got so many quilts to finish that I do this system, and I like to have this block on the top so that whenever I stitch over the seams, then I see that I can lay them exactly as we originally planned them. Okay, now you see that big old tip hanging out at the bottom. You have to let your tips hang out on this, but just like right here, you want to go over that seam that you made. So you just keep on going right down through here, picking them up, assembly line, sewing them one after the other. Let me get this corner lined up. I didn't do very good. Oh, grab it and go. Okay, so this is the first part, the first step. And then you do all of them, assembly line, and then go back and cut them apart. And I'm just going to take one and show you. And you set the seam with the triangle on the top, and then open and press right into the triangle. Perfect. So we've got one done already. Now you're going to have to imagine this. So then I'm just going to put that right back in there, and each one of these will go back in place. All right, so we'll just pretend here. And then the next step is to go down the other side. You take this piece, you skip the bottom one, but you take this, you flip it right sides together, match up a square corner, flip it the whole way down, and you leave the last one. You're not going to do that one. And you have to stack from the bottom up. Let me get this done here. Stack from the bottom up, because each time you want to have a square corner to line it up with. Always set it up so you have a square corner and a tip out at the bottom edge. Okay, so now let me just grab this one and sew it together. And then you go back and you lay it all out again. Okay, you know, Nancy and I have had such good times with our PBS station. We actually went into Wisconsin Public Television and did fundraising. We had to always tell all the funny stories that happened on our PBS show. Well, she likes to entertain her staff and her program director with blonde jokes. But since I'm not a blonde, I do have at least one joke. So the one lady told me that she needed to go to quilt shops because her doctor told her she needed more fiber. And then there was the man. His wife said, I'm going to the Quilt in a Day strip club tonight. And he said, oh, honey, do you need some dollar bills? Okay, get it? So let's trim off those tips hanging out right there, and then turn them around and trim that one off. Okay, so that's just the start of it. So you can see you just keep on sewing all of these pieces together, trimming off the tip and putting them back into place. And then you just sew all of your rows together, all of your rows. And like magic, we're going to have this whole row all sewn together, and you'll have your whole row done. So square it up to 9 inches wide. Use your 9.5-inch square up ruler for the tops, the corners, and then the 6 by 24 for the sides. And you're all done. Nancy and I are having tea together. Did you know that she is also a designer and author for McCall's and Clover? What a star! Well, the table runner is easy to make with 6 star blocks and 3 10.5-inch squares, just like the row. The corners are different, with 1 1/4-inch strips sewn to the ends and then squared off with the sides. Well, you have your work cut out for you. Enjoy Nancy's star.